I smiled as she finished her sentence, because once again her reaction differed from what I expected. If I had expected that, namely, I wouldn't have come up with that clarification in the first place. I felt like mentioning it, as I still thought of the common motives as for relationships. The very motives that seemed not by any means applying to our case. As a result, I laid my head on her shoulder and thanked her for saying that, as it blew all my worries away. Once again. So although the location of our interactions had changed, we were still the same. A priori, a little subconscious fear of mine dealt with the aspect of freedom. When she was free, she had the opportunity to choose, to not choose me. And for I already chose her since we encountered one another, I at least considered the first calamity in our relationship to occur. Namely that I was after all only good enough for spending time with inside the hospital, where she was bound. So accordingly she searched for another match afterwards, which was everything but unlikely, as she had massive assets to scoop and create connections from. But as it turned out, and as she assured me thoroughly, she chose me and furthermore to be together with me even on her last days. That was undeniably expressed with her explication, which simultaneously made clear that I needed to let go of any abiding damaging beliefs I had around relationships by acknowledging that the bond we shared was not a usual connection applying to the major percentage. There are no preoccupations because they have been phased out. There is forgiveness. There is intimacy, which is based on emotional closeness and not on sexuality. Latter, in fact, astonished me severely. I couldn't deny that it played a slight role, but only as I was indoctrinated to let it do so. To be honest, it just became subordinate when she was close to me. Then we found ourselves on another level. But maybe that was also a consequence originating from the fact that I never had such a physical form of intimacy with someone, and therefore didn't know whether it would match with the evocative reports that are out there. Maybe it would change in an instant. After all, it was still new terrain for me. It was like owning a car with no empirical knowledge. How do I shift up? How do I start the engine? How do I replenish liquids? However, with Chloe kind of being my driving instructor, I stopped thinking further, concluding that things would happen when the time is right. While we preserved our pose, we suddenly heard a voice echoing up the stairs and permeating the shut door. "Chloe, Aaron, would you join us again, please?" I raised my head and a bit abashed looked her in the eyes. Well, in terms of our actual topic, we haven't been too prolific, have we? See it from that side. We have just resolved a thought that would have come back at some point, taking space between us. But now we have come only closer to each other, so I wouldn't exactly say that it was wasted time. Look, we could integrate external ideas for finding the perfect locations, even when it appeared to be spontaneous, with paucity of preparation somehow. Sometimes the surprises you receive exceed all of your expectations, just as it happened prior when we met. So what do you say? Honestly, you just spoke for both of us. Let's go down and find out where they would go. We nodded one last time toward one another before we hand in hand rushed toward the second part of the conversation. When we re-entered the conference room, or however that part of the building was officially called, Mary, Chloe's mother, already supplied us with more coffee. Soon, when we had taken place, John, her father, resurrected the topic we procrastinated before. "So how have you decided, dear? Do you want to travel? Do you want to own something extraordinary? Whatever it is, it will be the first time we use money to make someone happy who is not Mary or me. You know, our behavior back then was simply owning in on investing money to refine our lives by investing it anew or buying things we wanted to own with the purpose to make ourselves happy. But we never considered using money to make the ones we love happy, who are not us at the same time. And that is my and our will for the coming period, however that is supposed to happen." Chloe looked at me and blinked before she rose to speak. "Yeah, so what would you say if I asked you about the most beautiful places on earth?" What is the most breathtaking place you've ever been? As a result, John let himself fall back on the lean of his chair and stared at the ceiling. The same did his wife Mary. Throughout the situation, I prepared my own ideas to present them. In the corners of my mind, I also intended to consult my parents about their ranking of the most beautiful places, but that was meant to take place later, after the current consultation. In this regard, her father soon returned to us with a trip into the past. When Mary and I got married, we spent our honeymoon on the Maldives, which was one of the most amazing things ever when I think back. Man, I have been working a lot. Taking into account that this happened 11 years ago, and since then we never had something comparable. We definitely have to catch up with that. Then he lapsed into thoughts once more. This time though, Mary took us with her on a trip. I remember when I was a child, my parents and I used to travel to Norway, to Trondheim in fact. We went outside in the evening and saw dusk and the night sky converging with the polar lights. Afterwards, we set up snowmen, to which we attached sticks so that it looked like they were dancing in rhythm with the glowing stripes on the sky. Like her husband earlier, she also lapsed into daydreaming, which gave Chloe and me the opportunity to share first conclusions via sign language. I showed her my index and middle finger, not indicating a peace sign, but rather considering that I already found 2 destinations for us. I took her smile as confirmation for that, and also as handshake to seal the deal. Further, I just enjoyed the silence with the corresponding relief that we seemed to make progress quite quickly. But even beyond that, we appeared to have gained 2 essential allies to share our dreams with. I'm not speaking about hypocritically using their money. I'm rather referring to a collaboration between them and us. To describe us as companions of suffering was too much, so more appropriate, we were simply friends in need. I was not entitled to judge about them, but I believed they also began to see the blessing in disguise, granted by seemingly clear calamity. Be that as it may, Mary and John soon awoke from their dreams again, and like it is usual for someone after waking up from a soothing period of sleep, they were totally recharged. They now showed a wide smile, indicating the presence of an ingenuity, as if they had big plans. But before I could comprehend that to some degree, Chloe's dad anticipated. Well, that means we have something to work with. If you grant me the joy of organization, you can lay back and stay passive. What exactly he meant with that was obscure, but Chloe convinced me rapidly of his apparent talent for organization by blinking and prodding my leg with hers under the table. As a consequence, I only nodded, still being a bit overwhelmed, but agreeing to his offer. I was aware that he did it for some purpose, but for suspecting more I had way too many gaps referring to the way he was. However, it all led up to the result, according to which they kind of chased us away, as they declared our plan as established, and suspended us to do something else. Strangely enough, Chloe seemed to be well acquainted with that strategy, as she just dragged me behind her once more into the direction of her room. What an extraordinary way of finding decisions in this household, I remarked a little bit ironically as we entered her room. Wait and see, there is magic in the air. For I saw her excitement over the situation, I stopped further questioning, concluding that everything until now came to a more or less expected but happy end. I mean, overall we were together then, albeit I didn't know the exact circumstances. Only that I should prepare myself for it. Well, anyway, terminating that topic, we found us again sitting close to each other on the bed. Out of an impulse, I asked Chloe, "Hey, what exactly are they doing normally when they don't prepare surprises?" Chloe chuckled for a couple of seconds before she replied, "Although I'm not too much involved, I know that it is about real estate, nothing extraordinary. Buying premises, building homes, and then selling them again. A typical contemporary business sector if you ask me, so nothing spectacular. But speaking of that, what are your parents doing actually?" To be honest, I was not at all prepared to answer that question, as my answer was even less spectacular than hers, but did it nevertheless, though a little bit receding. So, my dad is a bus driver and my mom cares for the household. I would say it is nothing special either. A bus driver? Then did he drive you to school already? Actually, once he did, and it was such a strange feeling. Starting right when I entered precisely. No one really gave him too much attention, except for the usual good morning, while I really stopped for seconds and held a conversation. That was strange for me and for others alike. But however, what I wondered, what is it like to go to school here? Are people here really so elevated as it is depicted within rumors? So sophisticated, so different? She ruminated a little bit about my question, but ultimately responded. The difference you are alluding to mostly refers to the fact that people in your sector do not really show what they own. The less someone knows, the better. But here it is just the opposite. People show what they have. It's like the more they know about what I possess, the better. Once I was just like that, but to be honest, although I liked it earlier, it is one of the patterns I nowadays regret the most. The arrogance I tainted my personality with, but first and foremost, the way I behaved to compete with others. In that aspect you may be correct, when you mentioned rich people's stereotypical behavior, according to which status is everything. Be it reputation, money, or a high social hierarchy. And so it comes that everyone having less than oneself is being treated as subordinate, while people being higher than oneself are treated as paragons, only because they own certain stuff that has a high value on the social stock market of possession. Aaron, when I'm honest, then I have to say that I'm grateful for being sick. Otherwise, I never would have learned this lesson, and most likely still be that arrogant brat I now hate myself for.